Hello and welcome to my Pecha Kucha. This is Daniel White. I'm doing this for my design class for Fullsail University. I'd like to speak about why I love writing and just a little bit of about writing over the years of my life. Pretty much a lot of people write, some of them good, some of them bad. Uh, Even it seems like even the family dog is getting involved sometimes. Here with Snoopy. Pretty much for me, ever since I've been young, in my younger years, I should really love to read. And I really, after a few years, I really grew the passion of wanting to write. For me, writing is just sort of transcends your emotions and your imagination into words. And those words, when people read them, sort of show what you wanted them to see. As example here, just sort of sets your words to the fire, if you will. And over the years, the imagination grows and it just brings new life to what seems like a boring life, really. And to me, that's what books have always been, and sort of transcended into writing for me. I got to show people the worlds that I see in my imagination, and that's always been my passion. Sets wings to flight the words that are inside me, and hopefully, for my readers, it sort of lets them also take wings to fly into the world of the imagination. And that's what all writers want to aspire to be and do. As I said, there are thousands and thousands of books. Some of them, 9 times out of 10, they're not that great. And, it's hard to go through and, be that kind of writer. And that's one thing I don't want to be. I don't want to be a writer that just writes mundane stuff. I want to transpire to be kind of guy that reads and writes great books. Obviously that's not me, but that's what I like to do. I like to lay back and just read books and get ideas to write new books. And for me, that's a great thing. And so, that's one thing I transpired to be a great writer. And in first grade, that was the one thing, I started really writing small little booklets. And for me, my first teacher in first grade, she really helped, push and inspire that within me. And so I started writing little booklets, some of them up to, 10 pages, just told little, fantasy, not a lot of science fiction at first, but now that's sort of where I am. I like to write a lot of science fiction and fantasy. But I wrote a lot of books, just little, whatever came to my mind. And one day I inspired to just write a great book to just sort of be at the top with all the greats of the genre. And that's one thing I'm still working on, obviously. But I'm hoping one day I'll get there. But one thing I really liked was when I was a child, we had summer camps where we had like little mini things at our local library, and that helped to sort of build my love for writing books, helped me facilitate it, and that we had a lot of local writers come in and just sort of help us figure out, hey, how do you start a real good story? And they'd always sort of at the end of the thing, they'd give us just a little idea for like the next time, sort of as this show shows, started off with a sentence, an idea, and they'd be like, okay, here's an idea. It's like, go with it, see where you can come in next week and see what you've gotten from this. And that was a great thing. Now, as I progressed through school throughout the years after first grade, most of the teachers, they didn't like my ideas. They weren't as open and great as my first grade teacher, Miss Harvey, was. For me, they sort of put down my ideas. They thought, after being I wasn't a child anymore. I needed to actually grow up and not be just so fantasy oriented. I need to be like the other kids. And to me, they were bad teachers, because that's the one thing, you don't need to kill your kids' imagination, as I've sort of seen here of late with the schools of nowadays, is they just don't facilitate. Now, a few years ago, I went to Dragon Con and I met Orson Scott Card, which is the picture here. And I got to go and see him and talk to him a bit, and he told some really great ideas about being a writer, how to do it and how not to do it. And I really learned a lot from him. And this was one of his books that I finally went and got, is How to Write Science Fiction and Fantasy. It has a lot of great ideas for how and how not to do things. And I recently just finished it for the third time, and I have gotten great ideas about how to be a good writer. And I hope to one day aspire to be this man, R.A. Salvatore. He is one of the greatest science fiction fantasy of our generation, if you will. He's written many great D&D books and other fantasy type books that most people, they want to be him, and here recently has done a great story for a game. And this is one of my good friends, Grady, and his partner Leah. They recently have, Grady, for example, has come over with great many difficulties and has written a great series of books with his partner Leah. She wrote the two on the left, the Never Trust series, Never Trust a Sorcerer, Always Trust Your Honor, and then the two of them together wrote Fear the Beast Within. These are three great books, and to me, they inspired me to begin again. I had sort of given up the idea of ever being a writer here the last year or so, and they've brought me back. And lastly, this is one of the greatest statements that have ever been said. Imagination is more important than knowledge, and knowledge is limited while imagination embraces the whole world, by Albert Einstein.